Good morning, grade 9s, and welcome to you all on this marvelous Monday. You are in the online lesson for WorksheetCloud grade 9 Natural Sciences. If you have any queries or questions during this lesson, please email grade9@worksheetcloud.com. You are invited to Worksheet Cloud online class. Arrive at any time that suits you. All you need is your positive motivation. Who am I? I am Mrs. Ernston, the Worksheet Cloud Natural Sciences grade 9 teacher.
And now, ASAP Science presents the elements of the periodic table.
There's hydrogen and helium, then lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon everywhere, nitrogen all through the air with oxygen so you can breathe, and fluorine for your pretty teeth, neon to light up the sign, sodium for salty times,
Magnesium,
aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, then sulfur, chlorine, then argon,
potassium,
and calcium so you'll grow strong,
scandium,
titanium, vanadium, and chromium, and manganese. This is the periodic table, noble gases stable, halogens and alkali react aggressively. Each period will see new outer shells, while electrons are added, moving to the right. Iron is the 26th, then cobalt, nickel, coins you get, copper, zinc, and gallium, germanium, and arsen, selenium, and bromine, film, will krypton help sign up your room, rubidium, and strontium, then yttrium, zirconium,
niobium,
molybdenum, technetium,
ruthenium,
rhodium, palladium,
silverware,
then cadmium and indium,
tin cans,
antimony, then tellurium, and iodine, and xenon, and then cesium, and
Barium is 56, and this is where the table splits, where lanthanides have just begun. Lanthanum, cerium, and praseodymium. Neodymium's next to promethium, then 62. Samarium, europium, gadolinium, and terbium, dysprosium, holmium, erbium, thulium, ytterbium, lutetium, hafnium, tantalum, tungsten, then we're on to rhenium, osmium, and iridium, platinum, gold to make you rich till you grow old, mercury to tell you when it's really cold, thallium, and lead, the bismuth for your tummy, polonium, astatine would not be yummy, radon, and cesium will last a little time, radium, then actinides at 89. This is the periodic table, noble gases stable, halogens and alkali react aggressively. Each period will see new outer shells, while electrons are to the right. Actinium, thorium, protactinium, uranium, neptunium, plutonium, americium, curium, berkelium, californium, isonium, fermium, and niobium, nobelium, lawrencium, rutherfordium, wm, superchium, boreum, hesium, meitnerium, obsidium, rucanium, copernicium, natrium, flerovium, unpentium, livermorium, unsextium, unlactium, and then we're done.
So thanks to ASAP Science for the song and to introduce our lesson. So today's little activity to start off is all about the periodic table. I want you to give yourself no more than about 2 minutes, and I want you to write down everything that you can remember about the periodic table that you learnt in grade 7 and grade 8. So you can press pause on the screen and grab a pen and paper, and off you go. Brainstorm the periodic table. Okay, welcome back. So I'm sure you could actually remember quite a lot about the periodic table. But before we continue with today's lesson, I want to give you a little puzzle. And that is, can you use the periodic table to help you spell the name of a board game, a relative, a type of fuel, a group of fish, and a place where you put your rubbish? There are some more hints and clues as we progress through the lesson, but you'll need to wait right till the end if you want the answers. So let us recap what you have done in grade 7 and grade 8 about the periodic table. So the one thing you should have remembered is the periodic table is basically a chart that scientists use to list the known elements. It was proposed by Dmitry Mendeleev in the early 1800s. Each element has a fixed position on the periodic table. Metals are found on the left-hand side of the table. Non-metals are found on the far right-hand side of the table, and semi-metals or metalloids are found in the region between the metals and the non-metals. But the one fact I'd like you to hold on today is that the elements are arranged in order of increasing atomic number, with the lightest element, that is hydrogen, represented with the symbol capital H, in the top left-hand corner. You'll have to wait until tomorrow's lesson to learn all about atomic structure and the atomic number. I find that this is a really nice periodic table for you to use because it has all the information that you need on it. So please feel free to keep on referring back to this periodic table. And if you can remember, you'll find it at 6 minutes 45 into this lesson. This is another very important task for you to do, and that is your teachers would like you to learn the elements and their symbols for the first 20 elements that we find on the periodic table. I am sure your teachers want you to know a few more than that, but just for now, let's do the first 20. You do not need to learn the order that they occur in, but I know that your teachers will be really grateful that by the time you get back to school, if you can remember the name of the element and the symbol. So grab your pens and paper and press pause on the screen and give yourself some time to do the top 20 elements. So welcome back, and hopefully you're going to get 20 out of 20. So you can just pause the screen while you mark your work quickly. What I would like to go through is the labeling system that we use when we use the chemical symbols. The first thing that you will note is that we only ever use 2 alphabetic letters. There will never be more than 2. There's either only ever going to be 1, like in boron that's B and carbon that's C, or you might get 2 letters. For example, beryllium is Be and boron is B, or carbon is C and chlorine is Cl. The other thing that I'd really like you to remember, and I know your teachers would really appreciate it, and that is your handwriting. So please, when you're writing the names of the elements, number 1, spell them correctly. And then when you are writing the symbols, please make your handwriting as neat as possible, because it is very important that you remember that when we write the symbols, in a case where there's only one symbol, it is always written as a capital letter, capital B, capital C, capital N. When we've got the system, the other thing to remember, where there are 2 letters, like here in helium, sodium, magnesium, the first letter is written as a capital letter and the second letter is written as a lowercase letter. So just remember that. Helium, capital H, lowercase e. Sodium, capital N, lowercase a. The one thing I do just want you to remember, and it gets quite tricky, are the symbols, for example, where we've got aluminium, that's Al, and chlorine, that's Cl. And I've just put it in the L here and chlorine in italics just to show you. Often it's very difficult, if your handwriting is a little bit untidy, to work out whether this L in aluminium is an L or whether it is an I. So please ensure that you take extra care when writing these symbols out. Right, so well done. I'm sure you got 20 out of 20. If not, go back at the end of the lesson and redo this activity again. Okay, so now moving on to the periodic table. So there are two very special words that we use to describe the columns and the rows on a periodic table. So the first thing, just to check that we all are understanding each other correctly, in a table, when we look at these things that go down here, we refer to those as columns, and across here, we refer to those as rows. So when we look at the groups, we are referring to the vertical columns. So these are the ones that go vertically like this on the periodic table. So these are called groups. So we have group 1, group 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Please remember that we always start with group 1 here on the left. The next thing that's important with the periodic table is the horizontal rows. So these go horizontal like that, and the word that we use to refer to that is called periods. The first period is at the top of the table here. So in the first period, we have the elements over here and the elements over here. This is going to be the second period. This is going to be the third period. This is going to be the fourth period. So what is the first element in the third period? So have a look here. That's period 1, period 2, period 3. So we're here. And the first element is going to be this one here. The first element in the third period. So if we have a look at the periodic table here, the first element, it's this row here. In the third period, 1, 2, 3. Here it is sodium. So well done to those of you that got that right. So which element is in group 14 and in the second period? So group 14, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, and in the second period, 1, 2. So yes, you guessed right, that is carbon. So if we have a look at the periodic table, elements in the same group will have similar chemical properties. So all the elements in group 1 are going to be similar to each other. So lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, francium, they are all going to have similar chemical properties. The reason why is going to be explained further in tomorrow's lesson. I just don't want to bog you down with too much work and too many new facts and terms today. But a lot of it has to do with the electrons that we find in the atom, but particularly the electrons that we find in the outer shell of an atom. So if we have a look at this diagram here, it's a mini version of the periodic table, but it just shows you the electrons in the outer atom. So if we have a look at hydrogen, hydrogen in its one layer has got, in its outer layer has got 1 electron. If we have a look at lithium, and we're just focusing now on the outer layer, it has 1 electron there. If we go down to sodium and we look at the outer shell, it has 1 electron there. If we have a look at potassium and we have a look at the outer shell, it's got 1 electron. Let's move on to the next one, beryllium. Beryllium has got 2 electrons in the outer shell. Magnesium, that we find in the same group, 2 electrons in the outer shell. If you go all the way around, you'll see there's only 2 electrons. We have a look at calcium. There's only 2 electrons in that outer shell. And so it goes. So if we just go back to this slide here, elements in the same group in the periodic table have similar chemical properties. So for example, everything in this group here, helium, neon, argon, krypton, they all have the same chemical properties. Everything in this group here, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, they all have the same chemical properties. And we'll expand on this more in one of our future lessons. So some of you still might be needing a hint to solve the puzzle and riddle that I gave you at the beginning of the lesson. So maybe if I give you this hint, it will help you. So for example, the name of a board game, maybe if you have a look at the elements carbon, helium, and 2 sulfurs, that might help you. Or a relative, you need to have a look at sulfur, oxygen, and nitrogen. Fuel, can have a look at carbon, oxygen, or aluminium. A group of fish, sulfur, hydrogen, oxygen, and aluminium. And where do you put your rubbish? Boron, iodine, nitrogen. Yeah, and I can hear some of you shouting out because you can remember those answers. So well done. Those of you that need a little bit more help, have a look here. See if this doesn't help you. So what if you use the letters of the symbols that we use to write symbolically the name of the elements? So write down the symbols for each element listed and use these to spell out a word that maybe matches the clue. This is just a sneak peek into one of our future lessons. We're going to be looking at the properties of elements that are in the same group. So for example, the metals in group 1 are called the alkali metals. So can you write the name and chemical symbol of the lightest member of this group? So you can disregard hydrogen, which is really actually a non-metal, and that is why it's colored in blue. But it is placed with the alkali metals in the periodic table because it has a very similar electron pattern, which we'll also get to in tomorrow's lesson. So if we have a look here, if we are disregarding hydrogen and we are just looking at the metals that we find in this group, what would be the name and symbol of the lightest member of the group? And yes, you got that correct. It is lithium, that we write with a capital L and a lowercase I. The other elements that we're going to be having a look at are going to be our noble gases. These are the kings of the periodic table. Hence, we refer to them as our noble gases, our nobility. They are sometimes known as group 18, but you're also going to learn why they're in group, we also refer to it as group 0, and maybe you can go and do a little bit of research this for next lesson, and you'll be able to tell me the answers when I see you tomorrow. So these elements are also known as the unreactive or inert group. And a little hint into the answer, noble gases are inert or unreactive as they have a full outer shell of electrons, so they do not easily lose or gain electrons. Wow, learning all of this is so exciting, and I can't wait to teach you more this week about the periodic table and atoms and elements and things like that. So just a little bit of did you know? There are cases where chemical elements take letters from the name of the element in other languages, such as Latin, Greek, or Arabic. So you may have been wondering, how on earth did these early scientists come up with this system of naming elements, and what letters they use, whether they use a K or an FE or whatever. So I want you to have a look at this table here and press the pause button and see if you can work it out for yourself. So if we go through them, we've got the name of the element and the language next to it. So we've got an element known as calcium in Latin. We've got ferrum. We've got cuprum. We've got argentum, stannin, aurum. Goodness me, I can't pronounce that one. Hydrogyrum, apologies for that, and plumbum. So take a moment, and the first thing I want you to do is, can you work out maybe what the chemical symbol for calcium is, or the chemical symbol for ferrum, or the chemical symbol for cuprum? Right, you got it, so well done. Calcium, we use the letter K. Ferrum, Fe, cuprum, Cu, argentum, Ag, stannum, Sn, aurum, Au, hydrogyrum, Hg, and plumbum, Pb. So now the challenge is, are you now able to work out, based on these chemical symbols, what is the name of the element? And this goes back to the first activity where I asked you to do the naming and the symbols of the first 20 elements. So let's see if you can remember. So press pause on the screen if you need a bit of time to write down the names of these elements. And yes, you got it. Well done. K is for potassium, Fe is iron, Cu is copper, Ag is silver, Sn is tin, Au is gold, mercury is Hg, and Pb is lead. So it might be one reason that for you that may be, for example, why is potassium K and not P? Well, that's because phosphorus is P, and so for potassium, because the name in Latin is calcium, we use a K to represent potassium. So, hope you enjoyed those did you knows. And back to our quiz and our puzzle from the beginning of the lesson. So, were you able to work out the name of the board game? It was chess. Carbon, helium, and 2 sulfurs. A relative is sun, sulfur, oxygen, and nitrogen. A fuel that we use is coal, cobalt, and aluminium. Now, I wonder if you picked that up as well, because the clue I gave you was carbon, oxygen, and aluminium. So you could have, instead of using cobalt, you could have used carbon and oxygen there. So well done to those of you that did that. Then we've also got a group of fish is known as a shoal. The clue that I gave you here, I didn't give you helium, I gave you hydrogen and oxygen. And then where do you put your rubbish? I'm sure you've worked this out by now. In the bin. Okay, so I hope you had fun this lesson. And then if you've got some time before you have to rush off to your other class, this is really just a fun little activity. How many words can you make up using the letters of the periodic table? I can't wait to see all your lists tomorrow and hang on to them. So when you get an opportunity to go back to school, you can share your list of words with your teacher and you can challenge your classmates and see which of you can come up with the most words and who can come up with the longest word. So I hope you have fun doing this activity. There are also 2 cool websites that you can go and have a look at. So press pause on the screen while you copy these down and go and have fun exploring the periodic table with the first website. And you may have wondered where my special writing came from at the beginning of this lesson. If you can go to the second website here and go and have some fun and games playing around with the periodic table. So be happy, stay motivated, and continue to do your best. I am so proud of all of you grade 9s who got up and came to the lesson today. So well done for taking charge of your learning. I am really, really proud of each and every one of you. So thanks for watching grade 9s. This lesson was brought to you by WorksheetCloud. And remember, if you've got any queries, to email grade9@worksheetcloud.com. Bye!